Welcome to the Time Management Podcast with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. I'm a productivity coach, global speaker, time management author, and award-winning entrepreneur on a mission to share the 888 formula with the world and to remind you that it's your time. Leave it to me to bring you new time management tips, tricks, tools, and strategies, to introduce you to guests, research, and case studies from around the world, and to give you a simple 5-step process you can follow to uplevel your productivity, achieve your goals, and create a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. I'm so excited that you're here, so let's get started. Welcome to the show. It's you and me today for a conversation all about the impact that our thoughts are having on our time, on our life, on our results, and most of it is going on without us even realizing. What if something as simple as changing what you're thinking could transform your life? This week, we're exploring the impact that our thoughts have on our success, on what we attract, on what we repel, on what we perpetuate, on what we manifest as a consequence of the thoughts that we are thinking day in, day out. This episode is for you if you feel like you're doing something wrong, you're missing something. This episode is also for you if you're aware that other people are experiencing success and you just don't know how they're doing it. And this episode is also for you if you want things to start being easier, if you're ready to give up the struggle and try something different. I'm so excited to be bringing this episode to you. It's something that's been on my mind for a long time. It's something that I actually do. What I am going to recommend to you to give a try in this episode, I have been doing for years. It's something that I recommend to my clients, and it's something that's come up a lot recently in conversations. And I didn't know if it was a good subject to have on the podcast. But after yoga today, I spoke to one of my good friends, discussed it, and they said, go for it. Let's see what happens. So I'm so excited to bring this conversation to you here today. Let's start by talking about conscious and unconscious and what that actually means in reference to time and in reference to the thoughts that are going on in your head, in my head, in our heads all day, every day. The best way to describe this is by thinking about an iceberg. I'm sure you've attended a training and seen the iceberg image, but if you haven't, an iceberg is 1/3 on the top of the water and 2/3 below the water. So for this conversation, your conscious thoughts are 1/3 of your awareness, and your unconscious thoughts are 2/3 of your unconscious awareness. And what that means is we are aware of some of the things that we're thinking all day, every day, but we are unaware of other things that we are thinking all day, every day. And it wouldn't matter unless it wasn't for the fact that our unconscious thoughts are actually creating more of the reality that we are experiencing on a daily basis versus our conscious thoughts, which is why this episode is so important, which is why the simplicity of this conversation will change your life. It will change your experience. It will change your results if you remain open-minded and give it a go. Let's talk about the observer effect for a minute. This is what happens when you watch something. They say this lifelong sentence: if a tree falls over in a forest, does it make a noise? Now, we could debate this forever in a day. Does it make a noise, or does it need to be observed to be making the noise? And for this conversation here today, the observer effect is the influence that you can have on your life, on your results by observing what's going on. Because if we're to take manifestation, for example, this is a conversation, this is a topic that has been doing the rounds for years and become more and more popular more recently. Maybe it's something that you have done trainings on, bought books about, maybe you've watched The Secret, maybe you've read some of the things. What I would love you to know about manifestation is you are already manifesting. You don't need to learn how to manifest. You need to learn how to become aware of the immense power that you have to create your reality, to create your experience. So if you're already manifesting, the life you have, the results you have, the relationship you have, the career you have, the bank account you have, the feelings you have are the manifestation of the thoughts you are thinking. Coming back to that iceberg, a third of those thoughts you are consciously aware of. Two-thirds of those thoughts you are unconsciously aware of, which is why most people are not manifesting what it is that they want. Because all day, every day, best example I could give you is they are going to do online shopping. They consciously shop for the things that it is that they want. And then they unconsciously spend the rest of the day doubting, will it arrive? When will it arrive? What if it's not the right size? What if it's not the right thing? What if, what if, what if, what if? And all of those unconscious thoughts slow down the manifestation and they become the reality. Now, when you truly get this, you will become so conscious, so almost fanatical about watching what it is that you are saying, what it is that you are thinking. And that's the basis of this episode today. There's some really great homework. Can't wait to share it with you, which is going to help you to go from the experience, the reality that you are creating right now with these two-third thoughts that you are unaware of, to the reality you are going to create once you become aware of these thoughts. Because life is all about moving from where you are right now to where you want to be, a journey of becoming. And much as we would all like to skip the journey, we'd like to go to the shop, we'd like to win that lottery ticket. If we are getting the result before we are ready, first of all, it's not going to feel the way we're expecting it to feel. And second of all, it's going to be very hard for us to retain it, which then leads me on to imposter syndrome, self-worth, procrastination, and distractions. These are all related to what's going on with the unconscious thoughts. I don't feel worthy. People like me can't. I must just be lucky, which is why I have this success. I'm just such a procrastinator. Everything is distracting me. These statements are mostly what sits in this subconscious, this under the sea, this two-thirds part of the iceberg. The exercise that you are going to do, if you feel called to, the homework, is going to help you to spot those. And they will become so obvious, you will feel like it's ridiculous. However, it's the same when it comes to tracking your time. If we judge ourselves for what we've done, we are never going to be able to set ourselves free to become who we came here to be, because we are not then speaking to ourselves in a way that is helpful, in a way that's supportive, in a way that is growth and motivating and inspiring. We would never speak to our friends, our loved ones, our children, our partners like this, and yet we speak to ourselves like this. And these thoughts that we are having all day long are manifesting as the things. And when you change the way you think about your life, the life you have will change. Let's talk about the monkey mind, the chimp paradox, Professor Stephen Peters' amazing book for a minute. Now, the monkey mind is very closely the definition of these thoughts that we are having all day long. They are jumping around from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And it can be quite hard sometimes to notice this narrative, to observe what's going on. But as I said earlier, the observer effect, what you pay attention to, you will start to notice. And in his book, he talks all about how our observation of our mind, and it's about getting to the place and the stage where you recognize, I am the observer of my mind. I am not my mind. And this has probably partly come from my journey with yoga, but also from my 10-year self-development, 10-year spiritual awakening since my near-death experience in 2012. And once we start to become aware of what's going on, that's when we could start to take control and change it. But for this episode today, we are in step one. We are in the observer. I would love to give you all the steps in one episode. But what happens is then we delight in the information. We do no application and our lives do not change. This is the difference between self-development and shelf development. Maybe you've got friends, maybe you've met people who, when you talk to them about a book, they say, oh, I've read that, I've got that, I've done that, but their lives are still the same. This episode is going to get you into motion. This episode is going to get you results. It's going to help you to change your life and step into your era of success, which then brings me on to another great book that I read over the years. It is called Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins. He is one of the first people to identify and map consciousness. What I mean by this is he noticed that every single emotion has a vibration. The simplest way to explain this is, imagine if you walk into a room and somebody's had an argument. You didn't know this, but when you walk into the room, you feel the vibration. And on the flip side, you might walk into a room where people have been having very positive conversations. Maybe they've been meditating. Maybe they have been at a workshop, a personal development event, and the vibration has been very high. You can feel that. And one of the very few benefits of 2020, let's be honest, for very many reasons, it has been a challenge to all of us. But one of the very few benefits is that we have become so much more tuned in to the feelings of emotion, the feelings of vibration. And in this book, he mapped out that shame, blame, guilt, anger are all low vibration feelings. And that as we start to move up the consciousness scale, we get to courage, we get to joy, we get to love, and then it's love and above. And these vibrations will start to then attract more of what it is that you want. That's a conversation for another day. But for the benefit of this conversation today, I feel like it's good that we start to become aware of the fact that feelings and thoughts create feelings and feelings create results. It has a knock-on effect, and then it goes round and round and round in a loop. But once we start to spot what is impacting these feelings, where these feelings are coming from, and we are not running away from them anymore, because feelings are not weakness, emotions are not weakness, they are indicators of what's going on subconsciously, which then brings me on to subconscious reprogramming and hypnosis. Another one of the areas that I am absolutely obsessed with and will be bringing you more of on the podcast. When you become aware of these voices, this 2/3 under the water, it then brings us to how do I reprogram? And that's where the subconscious reprogramming and the hypnosis comes in. It is phenomenal work. As I said earlier, spiritual awakening, I am the thinker of the thoughts. I am not my thoughts. My thoughts do not own me. But if I am unaware of my thoughts, I am unaware of what's going on all day, every day. The 888 formula is the simplest way for you to divide your 24-hour day based on science and society. So for 8 hours, we are sleeping, we are resting. For 8 hours, we are working. For the remaining 8 hours, we are living our life. And while we're living our lives, our thoughts, consciously and unconsciously, are manifesting our reality, our experience. The homework for today is a 24-hour challenge. This homework is called the 24-hour time tracker challenge. For 24 hours, you are going to track your thoughts. And for this challenge, I have prepared a free downloadable workbook to help you to keep a track of your thoughts. So step 1 of this homework is to track your thoughts for 24 hours. The reason I mentioned the 888 formula is that it may realistically be you are tracking your thoughts for 16 hours as you are sleeping for some of that 24 hours. However, the 16-hour time tracker challenge didn't sound as good, so we went for 24. So you are tracking your thoughts for the time you are awake in that 24-hour time period. Let's say that. Step number 2, for bonus points, you can write down what triggered the thought, aka what happened the minute before that thought came. Did you walk into a room? Did you scroll past something? Did you see somebody out in the world? Because a thought can be triggered by what somebody's wearing, what somebody's saying, what you witness. Maybe you saw a news headline. Maybe you saw an advert go by on a bus, a car, a taxi. Maybe you spoke to somebody and it triggered a thought. So the bonus points are to write down what triggered that thought. And then number 3, for super bonus points, write down the time of day that thought came up. I've said on episodes before, your data drives your decisions. And this episode is going to give you a ton of data that you will be able to use for the next step. Remember, I said this is step number 1. This is episode number 1 of this continuing conversation. Do this challenge first, and we will meet again on a further episode to talk about the next step. So all the links are below this episode for you to download the free workbook, complete the challenge and make your notes. Your observations will help you to release the subconscious programming that you, me, we have picked up over a lifetime. As I said at the start of this episode, I do this exercise every single day. I've been doing it for the last 10, 12 years since I was taught it on a personal development event that I attended when I was working in one of my corporate jobs. And I have just found this exercise has helped me to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And not to go too deep into it right now, but once you start to become aware of what these thoughts are, then you can reprogram them and change them, and you will begin to manifest a wave of everything that it is that you want. So for the first 24 hours, just track these thoughts. And if you are loving this exercise, share it with a friend. Share the podcast with a friend. And here, incidentally, just for full transparency, every week when I either record these episodes for you, for us, so it's you and I together, and or I have a guest, a thought that comes up in my head is, what's the point? I've observed this thought since I have been doing the podcast now for coming up for a year. What's the point? Nobody's listening. Nobody's leaving reviews. Nobody cares. This thought needs to see physical proof. This thought needs to see reviews. This thought needs to have validation. This thought needs to have feedback. And for the benefit of this conversation here today, once you start to become aware of the thought, you can then interrogate the thought and ask it, is it true? How much feedback would be enough feedback? What kind of words would they need to write? Maybe they only wrote it because you asked them to. Maybe they only did it because you begged them. How many times in our lives do we find ourselves wanting something and then noticing that the reason we got it was because we were overly asking for it? And then when we received it, we didn't believe it and it didn't feel how we thought it was going to feel. When you tune into doing what it is that you came here to do and recording episodes like this, where it is just you and I talking, if you leave a review, you leave a review. If you share it with somebody, you share it with somebody. If you don't, I have done my part. I have shared this conversation, this information with you here today. Then you can get yourself off the merry-go-round of external validation. And that is when you find your next level. Because when you manifest the thought of what's the point, you will experience the result of what's the point. You are literally manifesting the outcome that you don't want. So if you want to get somewhere, don't say there's going to be loads of traffic. Don't say it's going to take me forever to get there. Don't say I'm probably going to be late. I've talked before, either on the podcast or in my Instagram stories, if you follow me over there, about Einstein time. We're definitely going to talk more about that, because when you pay conscious attention to time, it can go on forever. Imagine like the dentist. If you're at the dentist, a minute can last an hour. If you are having the best time with a friend, a minute flies by. Does time really exist how we think time really exists? I digress. I have loved having this conversation with you today. If you love the podcast, please leave a review, share it with a friend. Not because I need your validation, but because it helps get it out there to more people. The algorithm, all these things. Until next time, any questions you have, all the links are in the show notes. If you want to buy my book, download a free chapter. If you would like training for yourself or your organization, all the links are below. And if you have any questions as well, drop me an email. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, my friend, stay safe, stay well, and remember, it's your time. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to let me know by leaving a review so I can keep the good stuff coming. Come and say hi on Instagram at Success by Design Training, or visit my website, successbydesigntraining.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Abigail Barnes. Until next time, don't forget, you are amazing and it's your time.